Ben Myers. I did the report for the Rankine cycle. Very excited. It's just a general outline of my presentation, theory, the apparatus, feature data results. Nothing too fancy. It's just kind of a generalized idea of what we're looking at here. So this is the theory behind it. As Stuart kind of went through earlier, what happens here. Pump increases pressure across the fluid, boil increases temperature to form a saturated vapor. Saturated vapor expands to the turbine. Pressure decreases, condenses at the constant pressure and temperature, becomes saturated liquid. This is our general apparatus. This is our condenser. It's our fuel source, our boiler here. That's our steam emission valve that we kind of regulated at 110 psi. Different data there. So this is kind of the general procedure of what we went through. So first we filled it up with 500 milliliters of water. Closed the valve, started heating it up. Took a while, took a couple tries, I believe, to heat it up. Actually it started. And then we just kind of slowly, like I said, started maintaining this 110 psi. Next step was to turn on the load switch and then maintain this load. It's not actually right there, but 0.2 amps and 6 volts, same thing, idea, just kind of regulated as we go. Once we kind of got to a nice, I think it was like a 10-minute, 15-minute startup time, we hit about like a rough steady state, and that's where we started recording values, as you can see here. So these are kind of our results. Like Joe, we both were in the steady state area, so our numbers are actually at completely different times. As you can see, I'm at 197 seconds, which is significantly longer than his, a couple minutes past it, but we will actually have pretty similar results because we're all in the steady state zone. These are the most interesting, honestly, graphs here. They're the inlet and outlet temperatures and pressures for the turbines. They're probably the best data we got for it. There were some other issues with data that we didn't have. It just kind of shows the relationship here. This was my time that I chose at. So these are our big equations we used and some of the assumptions we had. We assumed it was a superheated vapor out of the boiler. We made assumptions that you don't relate for these. I had to make a couple of big assumptions on the pump, I believe, because we didn't have numbers, and I think that was a lot of error actually. So these are what we actually had to do, our experimental objectives, input and output, efficiency. Generally, we just went through, like he said, explained earlier, we used enthalpy values that we got. The boiler, like I said, was, I think, the biggest source of our error. What we actually were given in the data was the temperature and pressure inside the boiler, not at the inlet or outlet. So we kind of made some big assumptions about what was what. And so it was a little questionable, but it worked out. Kind of about the efficiencies we expected, heating and out of the boiler there. That's actually provided by the lead propane. Here's the turbine, kind of a tiny little turbine. This is the actual turbine's work. This was the power from the generator. That's our efficiency there. What we expected also, nothing too complicated there. Just going through the steam tables, looking at data. Condenser here. There's a little bit of issues with this too. We kind of emptied water a little earlier than we were supposed to, so we kind of had I believe, an incorrect amount of condensed water. So we went on a couple assumptions there. Efficiency was pretty high. I think that was partially because of the assumptions we made. But you know, it's not very important, as we talked about. It really doesn't matter how efficient these are because water is not hard to use or get. So these are the state data. This is what Joe's slide did not show. These were all just, I went straight to like the website and then did most of the interpolation issues with it. But these are a lot of them. As you can see, here's the boiler, I guess we call the boiler exit. And here's the turbine inlet, and there's a massive pressure drop. It is a little questionable numbers, but it worked out, like I said. These are just what we went through, major pieces, a lot of the calculations and the internal energy calculation. Wasn't really too complicated. So here's our mass flow rate for the cycle and our variable efficiency. Like I said before, we got pretty similar values for most of this, especially the thermal efficiency. That was also one of those error things we had to deal with enthalpy to solve for that, and I think a lot of the issue came from the boiler. Actually, for that, I had to, outside the condenser, I went and made some big assumptions and used pressure and entropy to find the inlet values and kind of fudged it from there, but we had to because we really had no inlet or outlet values for the boiler. It was a little. Here's uncertainty analysis. Like we said, we really weren't given much data sheets or anything to look for other types of uncertainty or accuracy on the components we used, so we were left with least significant digit resolution. We halved it. All of them were 3 significant figures, so our resolution was pretty much that. Nothing we could do much around that. These are just our standard deviations and means of each of these different things. So like we recorded the boiler temperature, fuel flow, generator, power, voltage, current, power, and then like I said, these are the turbine, inlet, exit, pressures, and temperatures. So our summary and error, like I kind of pointed out many times, big error came from, I believe, our assumptions. We, of course, there's human error in maintaining that 110 psi and the 2 amps and 6 volts. And actually at the end, we actually had to cut off a big chunk of the graph because we didn't maintain it at the end and it dropped pretty hard. But I think the big one was really from our assumptions. We had to make some big assumptions in order to continue to calculate this stuff. And I think it led to some big errors. Also with the actual arithmetic calculation wasn't probably as accurate as it could be. But overall, it was expected, pretty low thermal efficiency. It was a little bit higher than the leads from last week. I think we said they had about 1%, 2%. So it's a little bit higher than that. Kind of shows the difference between a real world situation and then the experimental. Like I said, that's about it. Assumptions. Sources here, I didn't actually include my appendices. I forgot to include that, but we had like another 5 or 6 charts that just show the other relationships between temperature, pressure, and